Esta conferencia comenzará a grabarse.
We will be a little pressed to keep to 1 hour. Probably we will need to extend something the session. It depends of the speakers, but we have 4 speakers, and we will have also welcome Ula, the introduction from Ula to the topic. So just a very, very quick introduction for those of you that are new. We will have 3 blocks. We will hear 4 speakers with some ideas about the topic of the day, that is a collaborative approach to social housing. And after that, we will share the floor to everybody in order to allow you to comment or ask questions. Okay. With that, welcome Ula. No, Ula is not with us just now. I see. So we need to wait just 1 moment, and we will start as soon as Ula joins us again. While we wait for that, Nina has shared the link to the application on the CCP of the material about the video with the commissioner. Okay, so there are the video, the minutes, and the presentation. You have everything there. Amen. Welcome, Ula. Are you there? Hello. Ula, I think that your sound is deactivated by now. Probably you need to connect some kind of device. Okay. My impression, Ula, is that you don't have the sound connected. It's not that you have the mic off, it's that your sound system is not connected by now. Or perhaps there are problems with the system. We will wait just 1 minute, and if not, we will start with the speakers, and we will give the word to Ula Engelman after she solves the problem with the connection. Welcome, everybody. We are just going to start very, very quickly. For your reference, all our video conferences are recorded and published on the European Cluster Collaboration platform, and you can find then the complete list of previous recording, and starting next week, you will be able to also review this video conference. Ula, are you there?
Yes, now I made it. I had difficulties.
Welcome. So, perfect. I am glad.
Okay. Thank you very much. So thanks to all participants, and for us it is very important to discuss social housing and affordable housing, because this touches several industrial ecosystems, of course, construction, but also the social and proximity economy, as well as renewable energies and some others. So it's an important topic for the recovery, and particularly in view of the renovation wave. And that's why we want to see on affordable housing what possibilities exist, and then to see how we can take this further and develop a proposal based on affordable housing. So with this, I'm curious to hear what the different presenters will tell us.
Thank you very much, Ula. I don't see John and Soelaga in the list of attendants. Are you there, John? Okay, if he is not with us, I suppose he will join us later. We will give the word to Matilde Gauss. Are you there, Matilde? Yes, I see you.
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome, Matilde.
Thank you.
Do you want to have the presentation rights to share your screen?
Yes, if it's possible, I would like to.
For sure.
Okay, so wait. Okay. Do you see something?
Yes.
Yes, do you see Kaleidoscope?
Your screen. Yes, now the presentation, but not in the full screen.
Okay, right.
Now.
Yeah?
Perfect. Go on, please.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So good morning, everyone, and thank you for having invited me today. So my name is Mathilde Gauss, and I'm project manager at Kaleidoscope in Strasbourg, France. Kaleidoscope is a future cross-border space for cooperation that will be open to everyone for working, doing business, and consuming differently. It will open its doors next year, but actions are already taken. And today, I'm here to explain how Kaleidoscope fits into a global urban dynamic based on the values of cooperation, sustainable development, and social innovation. So let's begin with a contextual setting. So the RIB Urban Project is a large-scale rehabilitation project. It started around 10 years ago here in Strasbourg, and it's 250 hectares of sports wasteland that are situated along the Rhine between Strasbourg and Germany. And all this was not exploited since some years, and it will be rehabilitated. The goal is to transform this territory into a continuous urban space. Some key figures of this project: so 250 hectares, 10,000 housing units, 8,050 jobs, and the keywords are cross-border, inclusive, and ecological. So different districts will emerge from this project, but one of the most expected is the COP district. So a little piece of history: the COP Alsace, it's a cooperative of supermarkets. It was established at the beginning of the 20th century here in Strasbourg, and it tells a story of employees who joined forces to consume better and cheaper in a non-capitalist way. Everybody knew La Copée here in Alsace, and everybody went shopping there. There was a shop in every single village, and this is a place that really conveys an affective and emotional capital. So the COP ceased its activities 5 years ago, but it leaves now an architectural heritage and values based on solidarity and cooperation. And today there's really a willingness to rehabilitate these districts with respect for this history and to these values. So the COP, it will be 9 hectares to be developed, half on which in rehabilitation, half in new constructions, 400 housing units, and the aim is really to preserve the soul of each existing building. So in the old garage will, for example, host artist studios. There will be a maker space in the carpentry, restaurants in the old wine cellar, and also a place for cooperation that is Kaleidoscope. Let's focus a little bit on housing in this COP district. there will be a mix of social and traditional housing, and also a mix of individual housing units and co-location. There's really important, it's really important here to make participatory housing. So in France, there is a legal form that is called Société Civile d'Attribution. And with this, each future purchaser can become a shareholder of the company. This company buys the property and becomes the owner of the work. So it allows every future inhabitant to take ownership of its environment and to create its own living space. In this district, there will be also many shared spaces like shared gardens, a shared bike room, a shared car garage. So really, it will be a district where inhabitants, workers, and artists will meet and exchange ideas. Really a place where there is social and cultural mixity. And in this district, there will be Kaleidoscope. So it's 280 quadrat meters dedicated to entrepreneurship, employment, and social economy. As a physical place, Kaleidoscope doesn't exist for the moment, but it will open its doors in 2 years, and the construction began last January. The partnership dynamic exists till 5 years and continues to grow. Here you can see how it looks like for the moment, so with vast spaces. Regarding the space allocation, there will be shared workspaces, a co-working space, a showcase for products and services offered by the social and solidarity economy, a snack bar, a welcome and resource area, and also an event space. And we can say that Kaleidoscope plays a leading role in the district, first by embodying a cross-border dynamic. So Kaleidoscope is located at equidistance from the city centers of Strasbourg and Kiel. Kiel is a city in Germany that is next to Strasbourg. And it's really a neutral space. For the moment, it's appropriated neither by the French nor by German people. So it's really a neutral place where cross-border cooperation can be embodied. German structure and co-workers will be welcome in Kaleidoscope. There will be national events and also German and French language training, for example. And more globally, in the COP district, all billboards will be translated into French and German. That was really a demand. Kaleidoscope also plays a leading role in the COP district by limiting the environmental impact. So Kaleidoscope is really concerned about energy sobriety with the refusal of air conditioning, with daylight optimization, bioclimatic space arrangement. And the work will enable us to win a label, to obtain a label which is a Energy label. And thanks to Kaleidoscope, a particular attention to the environment will be paid on the entire site. So Kaleidoscope really brings this need on the site, and it also negotiated more vegetation on the site. Kaleidoscope also leads the way in terms of cooperation by constituting a cooperative society. It enables the integration of stakeholders from various backgrounds in the governance, and it gives them all the same way in terms of decision making. There are, for example, private companies, public institutions, employees, future tenants, members of civil society, and French and German stakeholders in the governance. The goal is really to give a global common vision to the district and to ensure that all the services offered by the actors in the district are complementary, and yes, to be really sure that all these services respond to people's needs. And finally, Kaleidoscope plays a leading role by linking, by involving the inhabitants of the surrounding district in this project. The COPE is located next to a disadvantaged district where there are security problems, social problems, a lack of public services, poverty. It's a small district that has long felt isolated, and now people are really anxious because of the change linked to the arrival of new inhabitants. They are like a hipster, come from the city center of Strasbourg, they invade us, they will change everything. We are not okay with this. So it's really important to reassure them, to give them a role in the project and to consider their needs. So Kaleidoscope has really acted as a spokesperson and develops project with and for inhabitants. So it's really a project that is co-constructed with them, and we are listening to their proposals. So we can say that Kaleidoscope is really a founding project in the COP district. It embodies the historical values of COP Alsace, which are cooperation, sustainable development, and solidarity. And it really carries the collective dynamic. Okay, so I think I will stop here. Don't hesitate to contact me for any question, and thank you for your attention.
You are very, very welcome, Mathilde. Thank you. Merci. Merci beaucoup. I will introduce now John and Soelaga, mainly because he needs to leave at 9 o'clock. So now is your time, John. Please go directly to your speech. We cannot hear you, John. Probably you have your mic off. Yes, now.
Yes, it's on. Okay, thank you, Antonio. Good morning, and good morning, everybody. Yes, thank you for the invitation and for this opportunity to share with you our experience in implementing and defining and promoting some initiatives related to social housing. It's for us. Let me
we are not
share
seeing
with you
your full screen yet,
yeah.
John. We are seeing your screen, but not yeah. You are not presenting it full screen.
Okay, maybe now.
We are seeing the 7 slide in the 7. I don't know if you are presenting the rest or not.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. This one. Can you see it right now, or
which one? We are seeing the 7 one. And now I don't know. Now the first one. Okay, let's go.
Yes. Now it has. I think that this has a delay because of the connection of the Wi-Fi connection. Sorry. So sorry about that. So okay. Let me do a brief presentation of what we are and what we represent in our Basque construction cluster. We are the Basque construction cluster located in the Basque Country in Bilbao. We represent 105 now partners representing construction companies, some industrial companies, some technology-based companies also, and also public entities. We do represent 2,500 euro in 2019, 12,000 employees in our companies, and we also are focused not only in construction but also in producing, and we have several industrial companies that work all over the world at international level. So we also represent some engineering companies, architectural companies, companies who provide related to construction sector and so on. So I will brief on how we face the social housing as
John, there are some problems with your sound. I would suggest to stop your camera, so your video. Please put your video off and continue, because probably that will improve the quality. Yeah, please do that. Okay, can you try now?
Yes.
Please, go on.
Yes. Okay, so how we face social, yes, also we face social from Ereikun. So the private sector, we both with the public entities also face challenges from our side to face social developing some innovative projects and trying to focus mainly on accessibility, making our region and our cities more accessible for those people who need help for moving around the cities mainly. Then also by trying to promote public promotion and rental, by trying to give inhabitants more a better service, a better habitat service, and rental service also. And then we have a huge challenge related to the building for us. We have almost 50% of our buildings here in our region have more than 45 years, so they need to be refurbished. They need to be refurbished. A challenge on transforming our building sector and our buildings also in near zero energy consumption buildings. So it's also a challenge. We try to integrate us, and then how we do it. Try to do the technologies and knowledge from the private sector by trying to integrate energy in our buildings and others. We try to focus on integrating smart technology by promoting the smart construction and industrial construction, by trying to be more cost effective also in building sector and also in refurbishment. And then also we try to integrate the sustainability and trying to reach to zero consumption buildings by our intervention and promoting our private companies in this kind of projects. And then we also try to generate and the technology generated and the knowledge generated in in-house projects with the public and private companies and entities to go international with this knowledge. And mainly to Latin America, we organize a lot of missions, and we try to sell our model in social housing by in companies, well, because we think that.
Sorry, sorry, John, I am losing your voice. Is that something that is happening only to me? Could anybody else tell me you are having problems hearing John, or it's only my problem?
Yeah. No, we also have problems. We all
have could be applied in this
John, can you hear me?
Countries.
John, can you hear me?
And let me explain.
John, can you hear me? John, can you hear me? John, I think that.
I think there's a strong delay on the line from John.
Yeah, John
of what we are doing right now. Two brief example with the public and private zero in our promoting. So we are working together with the past. Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Sorry, John, there is a big delay with your sound. I have taken the control of the screen. Please speak now, because probably you have a very poor line, and it will be, I think, better if you just speak without the presentation. Can you try that?
Yes. Yes. Can you hear me right now?
Yes.
Can you hear me right now?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. So I will try to move to another place in order to have a better connection. So, okay, as I was explaining right now, I have to show you some of the two initiatives that we are working right now. I don't know if I will be able to. I will take the cable, so I will try to. Sorry, just a second. Yes, Antonio.
Yes. I think it's
Antonio?
better if you just explain the initiatives, because the quality of the communication is very bad.
Okay, I will be so brief with these two initiatives. One of them, we are working with the Basque government and the entity that is in charge of the local and public rental with this a public initiative that manages 13,000 houses in our region, that some of them are owned by private persons or private companies or persons, and also 7,000 of them are owned by public, by the Basque government, by our regional government. So we are trying to help together in collaboration with other 10 public university and private companies, architecture companies, engineering companies also, and other clusters, in defining the planning on how we could refurbish all this real estate rental park in the Basque Country. So we are defining and sizing and defining all the intervention in this park. And then this, apart from that, we are working also with the Bilbao City Council. They are also, we are working also with other 3 companies and the Bilbao City Council in trying to refurbish and adapt a building that is owned by in 50% by the Bilbao City Council, and the 50% is owned by the public, the City Council and the private sector. So we are defining together with 4 companies a prototype for the refurbishment of a residential building under high energy efficiency and industrialized standards. So we are trying to define a standard and try to replicate it in private and social housing all over the city. So nowadays, this building has flats with only 40 square meters, and we are trying to gain space to the street, open it with materials, with a structure made by wood, which is a local material, and then generating and installing there photovoltaics and changing this building in an energy zero consumption building. So as a summary or summing up all our job in this kind of projects, we try to connect private sector with the social challenges, then put them together in some pilot initiatives, and trying to push both owners, private owners, and public authorities to transform these buildings in energy zero consumption buildings. Moreover, we are also working with the national and regional authorities in defining a new accessibility decree, trying to establish some standards on what we understand that the public authorities should promote as accessible spaces and streets. And yeah, on the other hand, we are also working with the Basque government in defining a new habitability decree, by trying to define some standards for each public and private flats and buildings. So it's a combination on trying to be referent for the public entities, trying to promote technological development and in terms of smart construction and energy efficiency, and trying to be also a referent, and then going international with this experience and knowledge, and trying to share it with other countries all over the world. So thank you so much, Antonio. I'm sorry about the connection.
I'm sorry because the presentation was for sure very interesting. Please send it to us if you don't mind.
Yeah.
We will share it in the European Cluster Collaboration Platform forum, webpage, and I am sure that we will have more occasions to let you explain us what you are doing. But congratulations. I know that you need to leave because you have your General Assembly just starting now.
Yes, right now, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Antonio. Muchas gracias. Chao.
Eskerrik asko.
Vale.
So, Sorcha, are you there?
Hi, I am.
Hello. Thank
Hi.
you very much for joining us. So I will give you the floor to you.
Okay, I also prepared a few slides. Should we also check to see if that works? Although we're not having great luck today. Should I try that? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Usually we don't have problems with the communication.
I've noticed more and more. It seems the internet needs a summer holiday. I've noticed more and more problems in the last few days.
Could be the case.
Okay, so let me check if it works for me. I have screen, your entire screen. Let's say share. And let me know if it works.
Yes.
Okay. And then if there's problems with the sound, maybe you can just drop me a message on the side there.
The sound is perfect.
Yeah, it's okay. Fingers crossed.
We are seeing, for your information, we are seeing the presentation view, not the, but it's up to you, no problem. I think it's good
So you're
enough.
seeing the presentation. Ah, I see what you mean, yes. Display settings, swap presenter view, and duplicate slideshow. And now?
That's right. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so it's the first time I'm joining this group. I just really learned about it in the last couple of weeks. So I put together some information from the sector. So I hope it really hits the spot. I hope it's what you were expecting. Please don't hesitate also to interrupt if I should go into more detail on a specific issue. And how would you like to keep the time? I know that we were all pressed for time.
Try to fit to 10 minutes if you don't mind. Okay.
Okay. Sure. Okay, I'll go through quite quickly, and obviously I'm available for questions and more information afterwards. So actually you've sort of already started to hear from our sector, because the cooperative managing Kaleidoscope project would be a member of our Union Sociale pour l'Habitat, which is our French member, which brings together the public and the cooperative and the limited profit housing providers in France. And then from Basque region, the construction cluster we just heard from also works together with the public housing companies, which are grouped under our Spanish member, Asociación de Vivienda Social in Spain. So in a way, you've already started to hear a bit of a taste of what the sector is doing. And then from our part, obviously it's the European Federation that brings together those types of federations from all over Europe. And today, we wanted to share a little bit about our work around the Green Deal, and particularly the work that's going on for a fair energy transition, one which works with residents, which involves residents, and aims for an inclusive energy transition, which does not leave people behind. So this is the sort of a combination of what we work to achieve. So obviously the affordability of homes is crucial, and it's even more crucial at the moment. As we know, we are working on this Green Deal in the context of an housing affordability crisis. So the issue of affordability is not only important in the green transition, but it's also to keep that bigger housing context in mind. And obviously working towards resilient communities. The social housing sector, I think we've already seen that. So when I talk about social housing, I mean also the cooperative and the public and the limited profit. So they can really play a role in driving renovation because of the amount of, because of their values and also the amount of homes they manage. And what we have seen is that what very much resonates when we talk with our members and their members is very much the district approach, as opposed to just a focus on the performance of individual homes. That means looking at heating systems as well, looking at how you can make the district also a better place to live, and how you can also, when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions, how you can look at the entire system. So the performance of the building itself, but also the heating system. And a big part of that, increasingly, is the promotion of renewable energy, whether that's in district heating systems or on the individual homes. And these are the type of, when we're looking at best practice in the sector, we're looking at those projects that bring together efficiency, affordability, also innovative finance, inclusivity, that are generally integrated. Then I think it's interesting for you to have just a bit of numbers are always important. So we're talking about 43,000 local housing organisations. Again, huge diversity there into what that can mean, from cooperatives, from limited profit, from community-led housing associations, and sometimes extremely large, managing 60, 70,000 dwellings. Sometimes that can be a small community-led project in a rural area with 12 dwellings. So it's a very, very diverse sector. We reckon the last numbers around 25 million homes, and this is always difficult to track, but in terms of activity, they're delivering approximately 200,000 new dwellings every year, and also, crucial here, renovating around the same number. Figure is not perfect, there's always gaps. We're missing some figures from Germany there in terms of the refurbishment rates, but I hear from our observatory colleagues, research observatory, but they're approximate. So we also estimate approximately that's around 50 billion in new investment every year. And then you also have a picture of that, so over 300,000 staff employed by those local organisations. What we don't know yet is obviously what has the impact been on the investment and the forecasted investment as a result of the current economic crisis, which is obviously having a big impact on households. And the last Eurostat figure said 11.5 million people are predicting that they may have to leave their home in the next 6 months because of affordability reasons. There you have also, I think is useful, you have a bit of a picture of the diversity and the proportion of housing we're talking about in different member states. So in Austria that reach up to 24%, Netherlands 30%, Ireland is going down to 9%, Estonia right down to 2%, and in Southern Europe and Greece at the moment is 0%. And we're actually working with Greece to see how we can start reworking. I mean, they did have a certain social housing entity up to 2008, but we're working with them now on how they can start to build up in difficult environment again a sort of a social housing system. It's diverse again, so social housing, affordable housing, and cooperative housing are very different in each countries. And yes, so before the COVID crisis, a study carried out by my colleagues in our research observatory together with the European Investment Bank, we're estimating 35 billion for new build, 25 billion for renovation. And we would require an additional 10 billion yearly until 2050 to bring the average level standard of energy efficiency in the stock to B. And again, we have some figures from Germany which are on our site about the forecasting of the impact of COVID on those renovation rates. But of course, what we are hoping at European level is that we can work with our members to channel funding coming from the recovery plan to make sure it doesn't result in a huge drop-off of the construction and renovation figures. Now, quickly, I'm going to go through some examples. I have quite a few slides, so I'll go through quite quickly and we'll share you the slides afterwards. Because obviously what we are doing is trying to get feedback from the ground of what type of integrated projects are ongoing to achieve the energy transition, and then to try to figure out how at European level potentially added value could be brought. I also, because this is the innovation and industry cluster, I also brought a couple of examples of what's going on in terms of innovation in the sector. We probably are aware that the innovation in the construction sector it's renowned for being a sector where innovation does take some time to actually be integrated into the working methods. But here we see an example of so Germany, to bring down the costs, they're looking at so the Federation has supported their members across Germany in sectoral tending programs for serial and modular new build. So this is a trend that is being seen and can be a way to bring down prices. We're also seeing, particularly in the Netherlands, repurpose, transformation, deconstruction of buildings by many local providers to also work as far as possible in a circular fashion, working to maximize the efficiency of the use of existing stock. This is a nice example from, we've seen Berlin and Paris of, because obviously the price of land can be up to 30, even higher % of the proportion of the cost of delivering new homes. This building on top of buildings can work in some contexts, and also in some contexts can help to cover the cost of renovation because you're adding new floor space. We're also increasingly looking at potentials of, this is example of social use, a toolkit that's been used in Italy and France, a renovation toolkit that is working with existing social housing building built in the 60s. So working on a quick, user-friendly way to bring those buildings up to standard with intelligent management of the energy systems as well. And it's just a taste of what industrialization might bring. And there's a nice example of energy sprung, and I quite like this picture. It's a system in the Netherlands that's been introduced with what's crucial for us is a 30-year guarantee on the performance of the building. And this is actually crucial when we talk about energy renovation. It's still a relatively new sector when we think about massive upscaling of very effective energy retrofit. And one of the issues will be trust and will be guaranteed performance, because the more renovations we do which do not produce what they are set out to produce, the more problems we will have in building trust in the energy transition. And that's in terms of cost for the housing providers, cost for the consumers, and real energy efficiency. Because this is obviously in a sector which we need to scale up, this trust and reliability is crucial. I'm sorry about all the writing there. Again, we have more user-friendly presentation of this, but this is a good one. So it's where Flemish social housing are working on across the region with the EIB to roll out solar PV using a new special purpose vehicle, using the technical assistance from EIB, and to directly bring down the cost, the energy bills for residents and involve them, so it make them own their energy and see a direct result on their energy bills. Then a couple of examples of those type of projects that we kaleidoscope projects. So that's a nice one we identified together with the International Union of Tenants in Sweden, a major renewal project in Örebro, but also with a high proportion of generation of apprenticeships, as well as employment, so as well as long-term jobs, but also apprenticeships generation in areas with social issues. And there you can, as you can imagine, that is not only the housing, that's not only the local authority working with the housing provider, but it's bringing in all of the actors in the local community, from schools, and here we see collaboration with the local firefighters. And a quick example in France of a big regeneration, bringing a big estate from E to B with a large focus again on tackling fuel poverty. Another one from Sweden, which again focuses on the need for that community outreach and the added value of community outreach, where it's not enough to just renovate the buildings. You have to include the people in a constructive way to ensure you get those savings. And obviously the externalities included in empowering people as well. So that is a nice example. Another nice one was funded under the LIFE program, so a very expensive one, but one that we would aim to replicate if we can get the balance of subsidies and loans and own funding correct. So it's really where they turned around an area, and it would be a great one to organise a study visit to, because it's close by, Kortrijk in Belgium, where they really turned around a district which was really a no-go district into an area where people can be proud to live, which is suitable for people with disabilities, for the elderly. And there's a short video if you go to that on YouTube, which you can watch. And a quick example from Spain, we already heard from País Vasco. It's one of the regions that's really pushing ahead, and again, going from E to A and tackling fuel poverty. And this one, I also didn't have time to put it in a nice format, but it's quite similar to Kaleidoscope. So it's a very integrated project, this time based in Villeurbanne in Lyon. We had a chance to visit it last year, part of the International Social Housing Festival, a very large project dealing with 8,500 units. And integrating housing first, also cultural activities, entrepreneur, units to facilitate entrepreneurs, and with strong circular economy, respect for circular economy. And what we've been working on with members is how the recovery plan could potentially help boost those types of projects. Obviously, the loan to grant ratio would be important. So we talked about potentially a district renovation program with a much higher level of subsidies than what is currently available. For many of these renovation projects, there are actually no subsidies available. And I think there's an underestimation of the cost, but also an underestimation of what society can get out of a well-implemented project. And there we outlined some of the criteria of potential project under a new scheme that could be funded through the recovery plan. And I think the social public cooperative housing sector could be an excellent vehicle to really push projects in the shorter term and ensure that those projects also benefit society. Potentially, and with an open bid, obviously, working with our classic partners like public promotional banks, and it could be similar to the Innovative Urban Action Scheme also that we see quite successfully at European level. I think it could also give us a chance to act as a policy laboratory, looking at what are the potential obstacles from EU legislation, whether we need more information on optimal use of social environmental clauses in procurement, for instance, and particularly now in the context of recovery, because we know that procurement represents a large administrative cost for housing providers. Also, obviously, looking at the bigger picture, Stability and Growth Pact, definitely a limit on investment, particularly in Spain. They cannot take loans at the public companies at local level in Spain because of Stability and Growth Pact. And looking, obviously, at how to work, could always improve. It's going well with the EIB, but it can always be improved. Oops. So that's it. Sorry, I probably took way too long.
Thank you very much. It was a very interesting presentation. I am impressed by the numbers. Sorry, I need to say that I was quite ignorant of the volumes. Thank you. And now I will introduce Kim van Sparentak. Welcome from the European Parliament. She is the rapporteur in this area. So thank you very much, Kim, for joining us and sharing with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation. I didn't create a PowerPoint, but I will just talk about the report for a while, and I'm very happy also to hear your input. So perhaps we don't really have time for a discussion, but it would be very interesting to hear if you have any ideas. You can definitely send them in writing to my office. Yes, so first of all, thank you for the very interesting presentations this morning. I'm a member of the European Parliament on behalf of the Greens, and of course the just transition is something that's very close to our heart. And when we're talking about the just transition, we very often only think about a just transition in terms of employment, but if we want to create a world that is climate just, we also need to transform the rest of our societies. And I think housing is especially one of these cases where we can have a just transition, making sure that the impact of housing and the use of energy in buildings is less harming the environment, and at the same time we can really improve the lives of the people living in those houses and the quality of the housing that they're living in, and also create more quality of life in their communities. And we started with doing research for this report, realizing that we have a huge affordability crisis, and that's both because of the height of the rents and the cost of housing in itself, but also, of course, we hear a lot of stories about energy poverty. But throughout our process, we also heard a lot of the stories like we heard today, which is giving also a lot of hope to see that, you know, the people on the ground are realizing that we need to improve our housing stock, that we need to create more housing, that we have to make sure that we do this in a climate friendly way, and that you know, the green transition and the just transition in terms of housing is already really happening on the ground. Unfortunately, we still see that there are some parts of European legislation that are not helpful, that are actually blocking people to take these kind of initiatives to combat the housing crisis we're having. We see that local authorities are suffering from the state aid rules, that they see that they can't invest and build housing for as many people as they would like and for the different groups that they would like. We see that social housing companies are finding it hard to be very innovative, because sometimes they are compelled to public procurement regulations, which means that they can't innovate throughout the process. We see that very often funding is not available for social housing, or that there's not enough money available for social housing. And of course, we also see a huge impact of the financialization of the housing market, because we have stopped treating housing as the fundamental right that it is. But we, in our society, a lot of our housing has shifted towards a place just for profit. And we see that there are very big investors that are only looking at the return that they can get, the return of the investment they can get, rather than actually the people that are living in the houses, who are just buying these houses up for profit, which is making it even harder to make sure that everyone has a nice place to live. Well, luckily, we see that there's a lot of things we can do on the European level. Of course, the people, or officially, you know, housing is not a European competence. But I think that the way that the European Union has regulated the housing market actually has made it, as I said before, that local authorities don't have the power to do exactly what they want and what they need to do to combat the housing crisis. So this is something we have to change. And of course, 2 years ago, we adopted a pillar of social rights, in which we have a pretty strong stance also on housing and making sure that we combat homelessness and make sure that everyone has a place to live. And next year there will be the proposal on how to implement and make sure that we have this pillar of social rights in the European Union, embedded in our policy. And I think that this is one of the things where we can really try to influence the way that the European Union deals with housing, and that we can make housing a fundamental right again for everyone. Next to that, of course, the renovation wave. It's been mentioned already a few times, and I think that the renovation wave is really going to be a very important catalyst. And also when we're looking at where we are right now, the COVID crisis, where, you know, the main message has been shelter in place, to make sure that you don't get sick. If you have to shelter in place, you need affordable and adequate housing. So I think this awareness has grown. And next to that, we see that we need a renovation wave. We need to make sure that our housing is more environmentally friendly if we want to combat the climate crisis. And we see that there's an economic crisis coming up on top of that. But if you put this together and you can actually create jobs and create better housing and more affordable housing with less unstable energy bills through a renovation wave, everything can come together and move forward towards the future. So there are a lot of things we have to combat. There's a lot of things we have to change on a European level. We have to be stronger on making sure that people are not excluded from housing, that everyone has a place to live, that we reverse the trend of growing homelessness, but actually try to end homelessness in 10 years. And that's something that our report is really going to put forward. We're really going to try to streamline creating affordable and adequate housing, giving enough opportunities to the beautiful initiatives like the ones we heard today, to make sure that the people are at the heart of housing and community policies rather than profit. And I really hope that my report is going to change the way that we look at housing in the European Union, that we make it more important again, that the housing ministers perhaps decide to get together again for once because they see that there's a housing crisis going on, and that we will see each other in the coming months and talk about this more, because I think that you have very beautiful initiatives, and especially hearing what the European Union can do is very helpful also for our work in the European Parliament. Thank you.
You are very welcome, Kim, and I hope to continue seeing you, generally speaking, because I am sure that the collaborative environments make sense in this area, and I wish you the best of the success with your report. So it's the time for a short dialogue, because we don't have many time, but open the floor now for everybody. Comments, questions? I'm sure there are some new point of views, experiences.
Maybe a comment. Hi, good morning. That's Michael Veit from the European Commission, DG Economic and Financial Affairs. Hello to everyone. I'm working particular on the housing and the social housing sector and its financing. I would have one question and one let's say remark. So the first one on the first project in Strasbourg on this former co-op area. How does the financing work? So it was mainly an intervention by the state or by the Promotional Bank of France, for example, and then attracting some private financing. And now two remarks. It was interesting of what Saoirse said, that typically, and the best model is 50% subsidies, grants, and the rest of loans to finance something sustainable. Then another thought, and this is the last say I would have. We have observed a large divide between urban and rural areas in the last year. So a lot of people want to live in cities because they found work there, and then this lifts the prices up, of course. Now I think with this new concept, so sustainable transport, but mainly also teleworking, which came up in the last 3-4 months, that could help a little to bridge this divide. So maybe some rural areas would become more attractive in the future, and it could take the pressure away from the urban regions as well. Thank you.
Very welcome. Matilde, I think that the first question was for you.
Yes, thank you for your question. So for Kaleidoscope, it's a mix of private and public financements and of French and German financing. So there are some public institutions that are financing the project, like Strasbourg and Kiel, so the city, Also, the department and the region are co-financing this project, and we are also doing for Interreg, so FEDER, it's EFRE, so it's an European fund, and we are doing actually the demands to obtain this financement. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comment, question?
Perhaps I can just react to the funding issue.
For sure.
From Equinia. So, I mean, we completed a benchmarking as to how renovation projects are funded at the moment, and in many countries the subsidy is almost non-existent or very small, and we see increasing pressure on social housing providers. And there's a study just I'm waiting to see from the Netherlands, which is also illustrating, even in a country where they have very stable financing, they are showing that higher costs of renovation and increased rates of renovation will really start to set their balance sheets off, and also decrease the amount of new construction that can be built. So what we are proposing is that the recovery plan could have a specific program where you would have a very high level of grant to really get innovative pilots, which would not necessarily take place, definitely not under market conditions, would just not happen. So this is, we think, is an opportunity, and it would also overcome issues around deficit rules. As we mentioned, in Spain, we see with the public housing providers, often they cannot invest because they have those deficit rules. And also we are hearing, for example, from Italy, we talked with our cooperative member, when they try to do mixed projects, investors are very reluctant to actually put money on the table when you're talking about a mix of, let's say, homeless service, care homes, or cultural components. Also very difficult. And if these are the type of projects that we think the energy transition needs to be composed of, then we have to really reconsider the need for grants, but also the payback that we would get from that public investment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment, question?
Antonio, can I make a very small question to Sasha? Sasha, we speak a lot about smart cities, and one of the topics in smart cities is the quality of habitat, the quality of energy, and ICT. How do you see the role of social housing in this ecosystem of smart cities?
Definitely a role to play. We have a number of experimentation, and one of the ones I mentioned there was the HEART project, with pilots in Italy and Spain and the UK, if I'm not mistaken. And it's indeed bringing those components together. So innovation, quality, and digitalization. I think I showed a couple of slides on that, where you will have innovation in terms of the development of renovation toolkit, which will speed up the process of renovation. It's also looking at better communication with residents via face-to-face outreach, but also digital tools, and then the centralized energy management, which can also be linked up with the broader grid. So we definitely see pilots which are going in that direction. Obviously, data ownership is an issue there. User friendliness is an issue there. A lot of evaluation to be done, but definitely potential. And as you can see, that there's the numbers are there, so the scaling up potential is also possible. So, yes.
Perfect. We are out of the forecasted time. I would suggest Ula to close with your comments, if you agree.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot. And I think it showed why we were suggesting to discuss this topic. There is, on one hand, a big economic potential behind it, and that is what is needed for the recovery. And also, as it was said by several interventions, it is very important on one hand to combine, let's say, the Green Deal, the renovation wave, all the recovery package, and this social housing, affordable housing, seems a perfect vehicle to do this. So, and that can then also be inspiration for member states to use this, because this is a problem which is very, on one hand, local, also for cities, very relevant. And also there was made a mix between cities and rural and how to tackle this. So I think this ticks a lot of boxes for the future, where it can have a very positive effect directly on the ground and for the people. So I want to thank all the presenters, and I think we will be more in contact and work more on this topic, because it really goes across several industrial ecosystems. Thank you.
You are very welcome. Thank you, everybody. And yes, I hope to see you soon and continue studying how to participate in this very, very important movement. Thank you. See you soon, I hope. Bye.
Thank you very much. Have a good weekend, a good day.
Bye.
You.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.